Hey guys, so today I'm doing my Kythera build for the Snowwolf Barrett M107. Let's start off with I already took everything apart, completely gutted the gearbox. So let's start with just the engine itself. There's 3 screws on here. There's this one, and this one that you can adjust. And they do 3 different things. You may need to mess around with these screws to get the engine to work properly, but I will leave a guide for a Reddit post that explains how to adjust these screws properly and troubleshoot in the comments. But this one is your over travel, this one, and then these 2 have to do with the trigger and the sear. So they just need to be tuned properly. Otherwise, your Kythera will be full auto, which I can kind of show, maybe. So right now this isn't set properly. There's a screw in here too, which adjusts your spring tension, as well as you can add shims to it. But if I just go like this, and then, yeah. So if this isn't adjusted properly, you'll either have it full auto or it'll like double fire or something like that. And then obviously, like I said, this one's not adjusted properly, so it's not resetting. I have to manually reset it right now. And then this one, when you first get your engine, might be all the way in, and it might not work at all until you loosen this screw a little bit. They also recommend Loctite on all these screws. But yeah, that's just, I guess, basics of tuning your Kythera. I was having a little trouble with it until I found the guide, so I figure it might help you guys out too. Okay, so I now have this working properly. Here's what my screws look like as far as grubs. Screws. This one has 1 shim under it, and then I put the extra grub screw that came with this in here, and this top one's just sticking out a tiny bit, and that seems to be working pretty good. And then here's what my trigger pull looks like right there, and then obviously the reset. But maybe you could get it tuned better, but this is about as light as I could make the trigger pull without it having reset issues, and then about as short as I could get it too. Alright, so you want to sit your engine in your gearbox case like this. I am running this line out of this hole here, and that's strictly because this is going in a Barrett M107, even though this is a M4 V2 gearbox. The Barrett has enough space in the body to just run this out the side instead of out the grip, or drilling a hole right here and running it out this way. But once you have this in, you want to put in your trigger, and you want to make sure that everything works correctly in its place. I tried this trigger. I forget what brand this is, but maybe it says it right here. No. I think this is a speed trigger, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But aftermarket trigger with an adjustable over travel or take up screw. And did not work. So I am going to go to a stock trigger again. I don't know why this didn't work, but I noticed this right here is a little different. So maybe if I Dremel it down to how this is flat, it will work. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not going to try to mess with this to get it to work if the stock trigger works fine. So I'm going to run this out the bottom to the pistol grip, then run this out the side, and then I'm going to drill a hole in the stock, which I'll show you guys later. But yeah, make sure everything works before you put your gearbox together, like screw it down and stuff, and then yeah, go from there. Also, another thing to make sure is that the shims and the stuff for this spring and this chambering cord are good and they're in place correctly. But here's mine. I'm holding it together. It's hooked up to air, and it works. So now this is ready to be screwed up. and put back into the gun. Something I completely forgot, specifically for this Barrett build. For most of the M4 builds, you want to cut this down. And you do need to put this in here before you shut your gearbox shell. But yeah, so obviously this screw is an anchor point for the gearbox itself. And specifically for this Barrett build, this piece, this black piece here, is a lot easier to have in between this and just put it together like this, rather than trying to put this in and then screw it down and stuff. So if you're doing one of these Barrett builds, I highly recommend just keep this piece on here, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Another thing to note, mine had a little bit of back and forth play before I tightened down the gearbox shell. So before I did that, I pushed the engine as far up as I could. I haven't really done any research on this, but I believe it should be as far forward as possible. I guess I'll find out and I'll update you guys on that. But yeah, that's just something I noticed with this specific gearbox shell from Snow Wolf. And then here's the piece. I just tightened in the bolt a little bit, so it didn't have any back and forth play actually inside here, and because it's seated correctly right now. So yeah, there's that too. Alright, so I did look at this actually, and if you can see this right here, it's for the charging handle. It's like a guide rod for the spring. So this coming out on this side is going to be a little problematic, I think. I'm going to run it on the other side and then just run it around. But most likely, I don't know if you can really see it, but most likely you will have to cut out some of the pleat on one side to route this out without, you know, pinching it or anything like that. And then you're going to have to drill a hole in the stock of the gun. Okay, with this kind of sitting in the gun, it looks like actually this notch right here is going to be perfectly good to run this through. So now that this is run through, I am going to drill a hole in the center right here that comes out right here for my actual line. I'm going to place my grip on here to kind of see the spacing and see where I like it, but after that, I'm going to get to drilling. Now, the easiest way to get your charging handle back on is going to be actually to have this out of the gun, and then that way you can freely work with this. You can put this rod through the hole and then put this little clip on the end of the rod, and then I'll show you once it's in what it looks like. Alright, so I got my gearbox in. There is a pin right here with a little clip on the other side, and then there's a pin right here with a clip on that side for this, and you put this all in as one assembly, and then you have two bolts that go in from underneath here, and then two bolts that go here and tighten this one down. But as you can see, that runs perfectly in there, which now will allow me to drill my hole here and do that. But yeah, everything's looking good so far. Charging handle still comes as far back as it needs to. So there's that. It doesn't interfere with anything, so that's good. Everything's good. For the grip, I did decide to go here because I like the ergonomics of this one better. And this was on Evike for I think like 15 bucks or something. But it, you know, you can put any AEG grip on here. This had a long thing sticking up and kind of came out like this. Like in a little, kind of followed this curve right here and went out and back. So I did have to cut that down, as you can see. But, and this will stick out a little bit. But I think it's worth it for the ergonomics. Maybe I'll find a better looking grip that'll fit flush, but I did not like the standard A2 grip that was on there, so I went with this. I have this on here now. As you can see, it is really weird how it sticks out a little bit, and it's not flush like the A2 grip was. But I think overall, other than the overhang, this looks better, and it just feels better. I mean, that's the main reason I did it. Another thing I forgot to mention as far as the engine goes, make sure you get the Kythera specific line, because I accidentally bought a different line, I guess for a Polarstar, like a jack or something, and that did not fit in the Kythera. So next we're going to be moving on to the upper. I have a LPVO replica, and then I 3D printed this massive muzzle brake, not only to save me some money, because this came with the round style one, but also because I wanted to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit more aggressive. So next I'm going to be replacing this stock hop-up unit with a max hop-up unit, a maple leaf bucking. I believe this is, yeah, maple leaf 70 degree. I don't know if this is going to work all that well because it's smushed down like that. This might not be the best. But so, maple leaf, super silicone. Wanted to try that. I normally go with an Autobot or Decepticon, but I saw this and I was like, oh, let me try it. Max hop-up unit. And I believe I already have a Prometheus barrel in here. Not sure what barrel exactly, but I do know that it is aftermarket because I did cut down the outer barrel on this. You can't really see it without me taking this off, but obviously they normally have more than an inch or two between the muzzle brake and the handguard. So yeah, so I cut that down, and when I did, I put in an aftermarket barrel. Not sure what brand, but shorter barrel. So to get your inner barrel and hop up out on this specific gun, there's going to be a grub screw here that keeps pressure on your outer barrel. Here it is cut down. I did have to take this off, but this is just kind of slides on and stays there through friction. But there's a screw here, and then this threads off, as you can see right here. And then there's going to be a screw here and a screw here, and they go into this black part here, and then you'll be able to access your inner barrel and hop up. Another thing I did to this gun was I put some electrical tape on this spacer. This spacer just keeps the barrel centered in the outer barrel, but this tape is to keep it from sliding off, because as you can see, it's loose on there, but the tape keeps it from sliding forward and back. So now I can access my hop-up unit. I'm going to take that off, that I can put on my new one. I did have, I believe, a maple leaf purple bucking on here. Maybe a Decepticon or something. But something I do like about this silicone bucking is that it's actually see-through, so you can make sure that your nub is lined up, as well as the little line that keeps it centered. Alright, so I installed my hop-up. I drilled my hole back here, and I sanded it down so it doesn't, so no sharp edges deteriorate this line. And I threw some tape on this mag because I thought it would look cool, but here's the final build. And yeah, this was my first build. If I have any issues, I'll probably make an update video, or maybe I'll add some to this video before I release it. But I mean, it was pretty simple and straightforward. It really was. Also, here's what the trigger's looking like. You can hear the reset. I would say it's pretty similar to an actual AR trigger. Pretty spammable. It is a little stiff. I would say probably like 5-6 pounds to pull it, but maybe you can. I actually, not maybe. Yes, you can. I've heard, or I've shot other people's Kytheras, and it was a lot easier to pull their trigger and a lot less travel. So I just don't think I have it tuned all that well, but yeah. All right, guys. So something else to note before I start this shooting test. I am going to be running this at what I run it on the field, which is 1.4 joules, which is around 90 psi on my regulator. These Kytheras, they can run up to 180 psi and get 500 plus FPS. Currently 90 psi is giving me 1.4 joules on 3.0s. That's what I'm going to be using for BB weight. It is a little bit windy. As you can see, that's moving a little bit here and there, but pretty dead today overall. But yeah, so another thing I wanted to talk about is the price of this. So I priced it out, all the parts to convert it, including the barrel, the hop up, basically anything that wasn't the scope and the gun itself. I've spent about $470 to convert this gun. I've used it a couple times on the field, and in my opinion, it was worth it. Not only does this thing get a lot of eyes, because you don't see these on the field very often, but also, being HPA, I can turn it down to 60 PSI, according to Polarstar, which is, I believe, around 100, like 200 FPS, something like that. I forget what it said, but I can turn it down to 60 PSI, and I can run this in like a CQB field with like a 1 joule limit, or I can turn it way up and use it like a DMR at a larger field that has, you know, a higher joule limit. So personally, yes, this was worth it to convert this over from an AEG. And this at $470, it's going to be a lot cheaper to convert than, let's say, you do a Polarstar Jack or something like that. It's going to be a couple $100 cheaper than other HPA engines to actually put in your gun and get running. And honestly, I think it'll be a little more reliable too, because it's strictly mechanical versus the other ones are electric, like they have electronics in them that can fail. So that's something else I like about this. But let's get to the shooting test. First, I'm going to start at 50 feet, which I will show you guys. I'm going to measure it out with the tape measure. I'm going to be on a bench rest. I'm going to go 50 feet, 2 sighter shots, 10 actual shots. 100 feet, same thing. And then whatever the end of my yard is, I believe it's like around 180 feet, something like that. So, yeah. Okay, so here we have the target 50 feet away. That is a 6-inch diameter pie pan. It's about the size of someone's head, I would say, maybe a little smaller. So I'll convert all these distances to meters too as well. But yeah, so let's get to it. 50 feet. Okay, so the first sighter shot was a dry fire, but as you can see, the grouping at 50 feet was pretty good. Here's what 100 feet's looking like. So it's starting to get pretty far out there at this point. I still think it'll do this fine without really struggling. Maybe once it gets a little further, it'll be different, but yeah, 100 feet, let's go. Okay, so it probably doesn't help that the wind has the target kind of crooked, because that makes it harder to hit, obviously. But it did seem to struggle a little bit to hit headshots at 100 feet. So for this next test, at whatever distance the end of my yard is, I'm going to be doing a torso size target. Also, yeah, it doesn't look very windy out here, but the wind was affecting my BBs quite a bit. Sometimes they would go straight, and then sometimes they would be curving. Hopefully you guys could see the misses on that. They're still close. If it was a body size target, you know, they would probably hit, but you know, this is the size of the target that I'm attempting to hit here. So I don't think it did too bad. I might actually I think I'm going to do a body target test at 100 feet. And then do the body at 180 as well. Okay, so now we have this cardboard box. I'm a smaller guy, I'm about 5'6", and it's about as wide as my shoulders, and it goes from about my chest to my knees. So I would say it's a little bit bigger than torso sized, but this will hopefully show that this gun can hit body size targets at this range. Now I know that was more than 10 shots, but we didn't get any misses at all. And of course, I don't know if it's going to come across on video, but I'm holding about right here, and the wind is blowing them all over this area. So it's kind of hard because the wind will blow 1 second and then it won't the next. But here's where our hits are. So we got 2 up here, 2 right here, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. Boom, 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 boom. This is one where the wind was barely blowing. Same thing with these 2. But yeah, so it can hit a torso size target at least. And you see the grouping is generally about as big as someone's torso. Most of the shots landed in this little area, which is probably about 1.5 feet by 1 foot. So yeah. All right, let's go out further and we'll see what it can do there. Okay, so I measured this out to 175 feet. So, I mean, it's way out there, but that's 175 feet. Let's see what it can do. I am probably gonna have to adjust the hop up for this one because generally my field engagements are probably like 100 feet or less. So, yeah. I might actually turn up the PSI as well too. I'm not 100%, but we'll see how it does with 90 PSI. And then if it's not enough, I'll go up to like 100 or 120. So the ones at 185 feet, most of them were hitting, I would say. However, the ones that were not were near misses, and it was because of the wind. I did not end up turning up the pressure. I just changed my hop up a little tiny bit. But yeah, I mean, it definitely has a lot more range if I were to turn up the hop up more, or if I were to turn up the pressure more. And also, maybe I didn't set up the max unit right. Maybe I didn't use the right nub, or maybe there's a better bucking out there or something like that. But generally, I think it did pretty okay. For my use, I mean, I mainly planned on using it for CQB. You know, like I said, my local field is around 100 feet engagements most of the time. So generally it was all right. I had a couple flyers. I don't know if that was the wind or whatever, but yeah. Okay, so I did actually get my neighbor's permission, shoot from way over there to here, which is 250 feet. And what I noticed is it seems like the BBs are coming up just a little bit short. I did turn up my pressure to 120 PSI. I changed my hop up a little bit. I'm not sure what type of FPS that is, but 3.0's 120 PSI was not enough to reach 250 feet consistently, so I'm going to move it back about, it looks like if I moved it back maybe 10-20 feet to like 230, I'd be able to hit that pretty consistently. So that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to move it this way towards me, 15 feet. So that'll put me at 235 feet. And then we'll go from there.
All right, so something else to keep in mind is I do have about an 8-mile-an-hour wind coming towards me. But here's what 235 feet looks like with that torso size target way out there. So yeah, gonna try to hit this 235 feet away. We'll see what I can do. Okay, so the way I have my hop set at 235 feet, seems like it was about the max range of the gun. I was able to occasionally hit it here and there, as you can see in the clips. I am firing in like bursts, kind of, but it was able to hit it quite a few times. I mean, it's a torso-sized target, but that's probably about the furthest line of sight that I've ever seen on a field, so I mean, if you're taking shots from here anyway, I think unless you're running like a designated sniper rifle platform, like one of the bolt action, like stupid upgraded VSR 10s or something like that, you're really not going to be able to hit this consistently. Maybe if I turned up my pressure more and used heavy BBs, maybe it could have done that. But, I mean, for what it is, 235 feet, getting occasional hits, not too bad. But like I said, you know, also it's cold out, so maybe the bucking isn't working as good as it would be normally in warmer weather. It's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit right now, so that may have something to do with it too. But yeah, overall thoughts, the gun is great. I mean, for my purposes, it's great. It's accurate enough that, you know, I can use it at my local field, but it's good. I like it. I would recommend the engine. The only thing I will say is you're definitely going to get better trigger performance out of the other engines on the market that are electronically controlled. But yeah, I mean, good engine if you're, you know, gonna want to run semi only and you want a cheaper engine.